British Prime Minister Boris Johnson convened his cabinet today, keeping his promise of getting on with the job, as he said, a day after he survived a challenge to his leadership. In all, 211 Tory MPs voted for him, while 148 voted against. This means that the Prime Minister remains in office and cannot be challenged again for at least a year. Speaking after the result, Johnson said that his win was decisive and he was now eager to put this whole incident behind him.
I think this is a very good result for politics and for the country. I do. Just in this sense, I think it's a convincing result, a decisive result, and what it means is that as a government we can move on and focus on the stuff that I think really matters to people.
Analysts say that the scale of the rebellion, however, cannot be ignored. Johnson's authority has been weakened and some ministers continue to call for his resignation. While theoretically Johnson cannot be challenged again for a while, it does not mean he is completely safe. To give more context, Theresa May, Johnson's predecessor, was forced to leave office just 6 months after winning a confidence ballot of her own. She had won her confidence vote 200 to 117. Opposition leaders have also slammed the result. Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats said that the Tory MPs have voted to keep a lawbreaker and a liar in number 10. While Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, said that the Conservative Party believed that the British public had no right to expect honest politicians.
This evening, the Conservative Party had a decision to make: to show some backbone or to back Boris Johnson. The British public are fed up with a Prime Minister who promises big but never delivers. Fed up with a Prime Minister who's presided over a culture of lies and law-breaking at the heart of government. Fed up with a Prime Minister who is utterly unfit for the great office that he holds.
This leadership crisis in number 10 has been months in the making. Discontent among Tory MPs has grown since Johnson and several MPs were embroiled in a series of lockdown scandals, all of which were laid bare last month in the Sue Gray report into Partygate, which was highly critical of Johnson's leadership. The Prime Minister himself was fined by the police for attending a birthday party in June of 2020, and this made him the first Prime Minister in the UK, the first serving Prime Minister to be sanctioned for breaking the law. Johnson's next challenges are not too far away. By-elections in Wakefield and Tiverton are scheduled to be held on June 23rd, and opinion polls show that the Conservatives are on their way to losing both the seats. There is also the forthcoming Privileges Committee inquiry into whether Johnson knowingly misled Parliament, all of which are expected to trigger a leadership crisis among the Conservative Party once again. And with many rebel Tory ministers still keen on seeing Johnson out of office, it is clear that this is not the end of the story. And for more on this, our correspondent Laura Makinai-Sherwood is joining us live from London. Laura, thanks for joining us. Now, the UK Prime Minister seems to have dodged yet another scandal. Seemingly so, Boris Johnson has convened his cabinet, keeping his promise of getting on with the job, as he said. How is all this being perceived?
Well, you're right. He's called his top team of ministers to join him at Downing Street today, try to rally those troops behind him again after that win last night, albeit not quite as convincingly as many of his supporters might have hoped for. And he's told them that he's thankful for the good work, as he's put it, that they did yesterday. Also saying that it's important that today they are able to draw a line under the issues our opponents, he said, want to talk about, to get on with talking about what he thinks the people of this country are bothered about. Things like the cost of living, high energy prices. And those are the things that Boris Johnson now wants to focus on, moving away from this consistent narrative that embroils him, this controversy about the Partygate scandals that took place inside Downing Street over COVID-19 lockdowns. But it's not going to be that easy, because a lot of the newspapers today have headlines including words such as humiliated, wounded. That is a perception that might take a little bit of time to pull away from, particularly when 4 in 10 Conservative MPs, according to that vote last night, now do not have faith in his leadership. So while his top team might be rallying around him, while he might have won that vote, in principle, there is a lot of work for him to do.
Right, absolutely. Laura, just to follow up on that, he seems to have survived a challenge to his leadership this time. But experts are saying the worst is not over yet. It's far from over. In fact, several have likened him to a dead man walking. What kind of turmoil does he face? Political turmoil coming up.
Yeah, you're right. And former Conservative leader William Hague has said that the damage that's been done to the Conservative Party is pretty significant. There are critics, of course, that will try to force him out continually. But if we look at this comparison to the most recent no confidence vote that we can look at, Theresa May's in 2018, where she went before her MPs in a similar way. She also won that confidence vote by a larger majority than Boris Johnson, it has to be said. And then she was forced to resign because she couldn't get any of her policies through Parliament. So while Boris Johnson remains in number 10, of course, it depends what he wants to do with his premiership. Does he want to sit in there and be labelled Prime Minister? Does he want to try to push new policies through Parliament? And if he does, will he then have the support of his MPs in Parliament to push those through? Or will they continue on this rebellion on the backbenches to try to stop any of his principles or policies actually being enacted? And that's going to be quite problematic if it does indeed follow that same line as Theresa May. And then it's up to the Prime Minister, his top team around him, to determine just how determined the Prime Minister is to remain in number 10. And these are all questions that the day after this storm need still to be weathered. And while Boris Johnson has, tackled a number of reputational issues in the past, if he's lost the confidence of his party, there will be many questioning whether or not he can come back from this.
Right, Laura, thanks so much for all those updates and thanks for joining us on WION at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.